Live or listening back to this show from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Teachers Talk Radio this evening. We're delighted to have you with us. If you're joining us live anywhere, do say hi in the comments. Tell us where you're zooming in from, where you are in the world and what you're doing here. I've got a really exciting one for you this evening, looking at growing character and well-being through outdoor education and outdoor learning. And we're going to be exploring how outdoor education can play a transformative role in students' personal development and well-being. So I'm really interested to hear more about this. And I've got Nigel Miller here with me. Nigel, good evening. How are you today?
Good evening, Tom. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Tell us a little bit about you first, because this show is built around outdoor education and outdoor learning. Should I tell you my story first from me at primary school?
Go for it.
So I didn't like anything that was like scary. So I unfortunately I got chicken pox just before we did our year 6 away week to like some activity center. I ended up going and it was amazing, but I always used to dread things that involved anything where I was like outside my comfort zone. In primary school, I got better as it went on, but definitely in primary school. I mean, I've still got a hint of that today, actually, a little bit. And that was one of the things that I mean, there's certain things I don't feel are out of my comfort zone, but that was one of the things that I was in my comfort zone. But I got loads out of it. It's probably one of the few things from primary school I actually remember, was that trip. I don't know whether it's because I had chickenpox the week before and I still managed to go on it, but it was actually the trip itself. And I know that in the school I went to, that was like the trip that everybody in that school remembers. Like, do you remember, what did you do on that trip? You know, because we did all the usual things of orienteering, kayaking, all the different things. So I'm really intrigued by this conversation. I know how transformative this stuff can be. So tell us a little bit about you and what brings us to this point.
I'd actually like to start by just picking up what you just said, because I think, honestly, how you started this just captures everything that outdoor learning offers to young people. Well, your story is very common, where there's kids who are dreading going on these sort of trips and go away. Is a kind of the sort of a first separation from mom and the family, or mom and dad, and building up that kind of anxiety. And I've got millions of stories like that in terms of kids who've gone on and had a similar experience to yourself on that. But it's the fact of actually doing something beyond that level of comfort, that, going beyond and believing that you can do something and actually achieving it. So it is so powerful. And the essence of what you experienced is the essence of why outdoor education is so special for young people. So I've been doing this for 25 years now, and we were talking just before we came on air, and I kind of started off at the more extreme end of the sector. I came into this from a career perspective. I'm an accountant on there, and I joined it from a business perspective, and I joined an international expedition business, which delivered amazing life-changing experiences for young people. But it was the high-end extreme. It was going off to Africa and climbing up mountains and going through jungles and doing projects. Yeah. And over the last 20, 25 years, I've kind of broadened out across the whole sector, and to where we are now with, I'm the CEO of Active Learning Group, which is a collection of experiences for schools and young people, which is beyond the traditional classroom. So we stretch now from single day camps for like 5 to 10-year-olds, forest schools, bushcraft camps, the active learning centres, which are 3 very distinct centres, one in the woods, one on the coast, one up in the mountains of Snowdonia. And I still also have an expedition business as well, alongside Active Learning Group, which is doing the same things as I was doing 25 years ago. So yeah, it's been a kind of a strange entrance into the sector, but something that once you're in, you find the sector wraps around you as an individual yourself, because of what it gives to the kids, but also it's just such a creative space. It's such a challenging space to work in as well, because we seem to get hit from everything from foot and mouth to COVID to increasing fuel prices to like conflicts in the Middle East and flight prices. Everything hits you. Every single thing you can think hits you. But you keep going. You're teaching the kids resilience, and if you weren't resilient yourself, well,
you've got to model it.
If you can't stand there, if you got to do it yourself, how can you stand there and tell them what they should do?
I must admit, like that, it must be stressful from that perspective. And imagine with all the different things that you think could happen. I know you probably have, but
stop reading the news.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was going to ask you about the challenges now. You mentioned a few of them, but when it comes to schools, though, specifically, we've had COVID. We've got lots of debate at the moment about rising screen time, haven't we? That you'll have seen, and debates about banning social media and so on. We've got huge increases in mental health needs and sort of conversations with young people. So why do you think that something like what you're describing of outdoor education, I mean, because we'll come on to this later as well, in terms of not just we're talking about this just for the classroom teacher who doesn't have an outdoor learning space or opportunity. We'll talk about that later as well. But what do you think that there needs to be more emphasis on it? Nature, outdoor education. Do you think that's the antidote to a lot of these things?
I think environments, change environments that you put young people into can only help develop and stretch. I think certain environments are extremely sympathetic to things that kids feel, anxiety, just that general inability to deal with like noisy situations and chaotic situations. A chaotic situation in the classroom is very different than a chaotic situation in the middle of like 300 acres of ancient woodland, for instance, on that. And I see schools, when I walk around our woods, there'll be kids with like headsets on, and I'll say to the teacher, what's going on here? And say, well, this, kid obviously struggles with like noisy situations and wouldn't normally take part in this, but it's inclusive when we come out to your bushcraft camps, Nigel, and they thrive on that. So I think it's not a luxury. I genuinely say it isn't a luxury, but it's in the environment we're in at the minute, with costs increasing, time pressures, grade pressure, all the different challenges which are on the kids, but also the teachers delivering it. It's very easy to say no to something which is seen as extracurricular, and I see this as like firmly part of the curriculum and what we should be doing. And there's lots of ways we can do this. It doesn't have to be extreme expeditions or organized trips. There's lots that we can go on to talk about with the teachers, but this is core, this is important, and this is something that actually can really help when the kid goes back into the classroom, both in terms of them as an individual, the cohort of the class. The connectivity between the teachers and the kids is massive. We do a lot of trips that go out early in September. Yeah. And that's a real challenge, because some of the kids go on these trips haven't actually joined the school. So doing all the admin and collecting money off people, it's easy to say, no, it's too hard, no, it's too hard. But actually, it's the greatest start to like secondary school you can have immediately in a different environment, getting to know the kids getting to know the teachers. The increasing confidence and connectivity on day one is massive. And I think that comes out of the environment you're in and some of the practices that we're doing when we get them into those environments. So very important.
That makes sense. And also, we know that, nature can help reduce stress. Being outdoors can help reduce stress. And I wanted to touch before we get into it a little bit more on this idea of resilience, because we've mentioned it a couple of times. And, there's many people, including we had Teachers Talk Connect on Saturday, and you were there, Nigel, at the event. And we had a few people actually in various talks talking about this idea of overprotecting kids, overprotecting children. So everything you've just described there, it is outdoor education one of the answers to that.
I think it is, because it's the world is seen as a riskier place, and you could argue, is it on there than when I was growing up, a long time ago, on there than it is today. But I think to shield young people from risk and to sanitize the environments they live in, I don't think is the answer on that. I think when introducing young people to risk and helping them to nurture the ability to make good decisions on there is a better skill set than banning. It's like, I wrote a piece on LinkedIn about mobile phones a few weeks ago, and it got a lot of diverse traction on there. I just think banning is an extreme way of dealing with something. I think trying to sort of educate and use, there's a use for mobile phones, there's a use for technology, there's a use for the outdoors as well, and it's about the whole child and a balanced environment. So yeah, I think it's a great tool and a great way of reducing stress, aiding well-being, but also from a resilience point of view, there is no adventure, there's no growth without risk. You have to stretch beyond the comfort zone. You have to be able to fail. You have to be able to understand what you could have done better, but in a safe environment, and better to do that with professionals around you and teachers who can help you on that journey.
Do you think that more children are opting out, either pre the educational visit or even during it, or not, based on everything we've just described, all the different changes in the way things are going?
I think less young people believe that they can achieve and do. I think that they probably think within themselves, and it's okay to stand there and talk to them about what you can achieve, but taking them on a journey and showing them what they can achieve by letting them achieve, letting them fail. One part when we do expeditions overseas, I mean, the ideal expedition, obviously in the past was a leader leading from behind to make sure nothing, really bad happened. Yeah. But actually at the front were the kids with a packet of cash and a map, and off they went, so they could manage themselves to buy their own stuff, make their own decisions, fail. The amount of expeditions where people have missed a bus and they go, when's the next bus? And they went, 2 days time. So they then got to work out what they're doing because they didn't get to the bus stop on time. So that's an extreme case, but further down, it's trying to introduce young people to decision making, getting things wrong, getting things right as well, and celebrating that and feeling and seeing that growth, seeing other people achieve and understanding, hold on, they've just done that, they've achieved, and celebrating together. I think it's that whole dynamic of not being the individual, but actually learning from the collective as well. So I think we just got to stretch young people, because I think they're amazing, and I think they can do so much more than they do, and they do a lot. They do a lot. The demands on these people, the young guys and girls, is big on there. So, but I think we can get so much more by pushing them.
Kay's made a comment. So great to hear outdoor learning is core for this school. It's not school, it's just a general discussion. And to hear the massive health benefits mentally and physically. I wanted to ask you actually about this, any sort of evidence or statistics or anything you can tell us in terms of, what the actual benefits are or the impact is of nature-based learning.
Well, I think there's lots of research out there. I mean, practically what I see, you mentioned before about going out on your school trip, and some of the trips
Cadean, it was called, Nigel. Cadean.
Cadian. Okay.
Cadian, I don't know where it is, but it was Cadian 95 was mine, but they did they might still do it. I've no idea.
I'm going to look it up after this anyway.
Cadian, I don't know how you spell it. Maybe it was in Wales somewhere, I don't know.
But
Anyway.
it sounds like it sounds like, but I think it doesn't matter whether you're going, into a rural environment or if it's in a more kind of urban environment. It's taking them away from their normal environment or on there. So that's the first thing. It doesn't all have to be this about mountains and forest. There's certain benefits. There's lots of benefits you see around being in woodland environment, around nature, forest bathing, different light, all this. There's lots of things that, it's very soothing on the kids. This is why I'm saying kids who are struggling in a more traditional classroom environment do tend to thrive in those environments. There are certain things that you can only do in those environments. You go off into Wales, you encounter, the mountains, cold conditions, wet conditions. You might go down a slate mine or into a river. So I think in terms of the overall benefit, everybody can understand this, that if they've been sat in their office all day, and the fact of going out and going on a walk or going on a run or doing some sort of physical activity. I mean, a lot of our kids are statistically less physically active now than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's just a fact on that. So everything, we tend to be, young people go to activities. There's a lot more like clubs and activities to go to do this. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, you would do it on the street or with your mates in your local area. So things are changing, things are more structured. And because of that, all these different organizers have got risk assessments and all the controls set up to control the environment, which is right. But I think we're getting less exposure for young people to everyday risks that they'd have to manage themselves. So I think environment is a key area of this. Taking the young people out of their day-to-day environment into a different environment stretches them. They encounter new experiences. They feel discomfort. It's good to feel uncomfortable. Okay, there's a certain level, and we can manage this, but it's a good thing. And a lot of young people struggle feeling uncomfortable. It's a worrying factor. So trying to help them and take them through that is a key part of outdoor education.
How do you take them through that? Because I mentioned 5 minutes ago about this idea of opting out. So, how do you take them through that? I know for me, with the example I gave you at the beginning, it was quite often from my parents or teachers or whoever, you're going, that's it. It wasn't like, it's just like, no, you're going, that's the end of the matter. Sort of thing. But that might work with some children, it might not work with others. So what are your sort of strategies and tactics and things? And this might actually apply for anything, to be fair, for teachers, but particularly for them when it comes to outdoor education. Hey, this is fantastic, it's going to be brilliant, here's all the benefits. So I
think with your experience on that, say, I'm a little bit older than you, so perhaps my generation, it was kind of, you just get on with it and you push. Yours is a similar one. Now we've got to sort of nurture and encourage and take them on that journey. The big thing is around facilitation and actually making sure the beauty of the outdoors and the activities and things we do are within the group. It's not often about the individual activity that one child's doing. You're doing it as a group. One of the things that when we set the bushcraft company up, the whole aim on there was, it's a very simple product. What you do is very stripped back. There's not 100-foot climbing walls and zip wires and things. It's a natural environment, but there's no queuing. So if you're at a climbing wall or there's one kid going up or two kids and then coming down. With bushcraft, it was kind of everybody taking part at the same time. And so the key part on this was the facilitation. And a lot of my staff, I mentioned this on Saturday in the talk, a lot of my staff are not academically brilliant people. They're absolutely superb people in terms of their ability to communicate and their practical nature. they can show you and develop things with their hands, and they can explain it, but they're not brilliant at writing it down and doing that. So academically, they've not achieved the highest levels. They do now in this environment. So some of that is about the environment, some of that is about the activity we're doing, some of that is the what they're doing with
the teaching, if you like, the facilitation.
They're natural teachers. They're real natural teachers. These are young guys and girls as well.
But that's interesting, Nigel. You say that is, and this is more a wider point within teaching, is what's annoyed me over the years is, and I know this was, I'm not sure it's as strict as this on Teach First now, but it used to be very much, if you haven't been to a Red Brick University and got a first or a 2-1, you can't get onto Teach First. And the number of, because I've been involved, I've nearly up to my 20th year now of teaching. And over that time, I've been involved in, for example, interview processes. I've seen teachers come through doors and so on. I've seen really, really good teachers. I've seen a really good teacher who, after a while working with them, said, I got a 3rd class degree. Now, some people would immediately react to that and say that person shouldn't be teaching. Yeah. But they were really good. Really good. And sometimes I think sometimes in that regard, it takes that to understand the young people you've got in front of you. You understand maybe a little bit more, maybe the struggle, the feelings, maybe some of the negativity they have towards traditional learning.
Yeah.
In the same token, who you're describing might have more of an affinity towards the type of learning you're talking about. So then they can inspire with passion and they can try and bring them along on that journey as well. So, I mean, it's just interesting what you said, because I think there's wider points there about, good teachers being sort of, academics don't necessarily, I'm not saying they don't, because you can have an academic who's also an amazing, incredible teacher. I think of university professors who would fit that bill, but you can also discount people because they don't maybe have that more academic background or qualification or whatever before they've even got started. Anyway, there's
it's all about balance and all about breadth. So we need the brilliant academics on there, but we need the guys and girls who can resonate, can connect, can inspire, can take these young people on a journey. And I'm very fortunate on that. I think it's the one thing that sort of inspires me and keeps me going on a day-to-day basis on this. Is you're surrounded by like young people and you're seeing them there on the journeys as well, because a lot of them are coming in while they're at university and mirroring their university journey. And some of them will start off doing like the basic camp, and then they'll move on to being like a leader on there. Then they may run one of the sites for us. So it's like kind of the best mini business school for them over 3 years. So I think just the other thing, just to go back, a little story about my I've got 2 girls, and they've both been through with their school, but through our courses. And the one thing they'll say, the one thing they always remember about the courses they went on were the instructors. They're the ones they mention, but by name on there. And some of these guys are not working with us now. This is like going back over 15 years ago. But it's the people. And it's the way that, my guys will meet them off the coach and connect with them. They actually go on to the coach and start talking to the kids and bring them off. So you said there will be an anxious child on there who's thinking, I don't want to go. My youngest tells me the story that she actually cried at night on the first one. This is my own daughter on one of her camps. As you were saying, because they were in this tent and one of the girls was actually snoring in her ear and she couldn't actually sleep. And so she was saying, she was so stressed on it. Was she going to be able to sort of manage the day after? And she did. And she was fine. She came through it and she's, built some resilience on there. But it's those little stories and those little experiences that, you can't write down in a book on there. It's just that they've experienced it and then just dealt with that. One of my friends' daughters, sorry, another little story on this one. One of my friends said, good luck on getting my daughter to sleep when she comes out on the course. I said, why? She said, she won't go to sleep without her iPad at night. I said, oh, okay, fine. Well, that'll be interesting because we don't do iPads on there in the middle of the woods. And she was so anxious. Actually, this is it was a 3-day residence. The first day she didn't stay overnight. They came and collected her. She went home. Second night on there, she was like, oh, okay. And the third, stayed and absolutely loved it. And when he saw me a few weeks later, and he said, like, she doesn't have her iPad anymore. On there, she just goes to sleep at night. She's changed, coming off this, because she's seen the other kids around her and go, well, I've always had my iPad at night getting to sleep, and I've just found, talking with my friends and seeing
got into the habit of it.
It's just broken that sort of, I don't know, neurological pathway that she needs her iPad to go to sleep at night. So yeah, lots of good little stories like that.
Talk us through, because obviously you've mentioned Bushcraft Company and the different things that Active Learning Group offers. And just in case anyone's tuning in live, we've had 70 people so far tuning in live. So thanks very much. If you are watching this right now, please leave us a comment, give us a like, share it if you're enjoying it, say hello. But besides the point, we're talking about Active Learning Group, we're talking about outdoor education. Just in case anybody doesn't know, Active Learning Group is a business that offers education experiences beyond the classroom for children 5 years old and upwards. So Nigel, what I wanted to ask you is just give us a bit of a taste of, if let's imagine I'm a secondary age student and I'm in year 9. So let's say I'm 13 or 14 years old, and my teacher says, we're doing an outdoor education trip with Active Learning Group. And I want you to pick maybe 2 experiences that are maybe popular ones. They could be niche, I don't mind, but two experiences, preferably at least one out of the 2 should be an overnight one and more than a day. But give us a bit of a walkthrough, as in like the schedule and the different activities and the different things. Let's call them child A different experience schedule that child A might have with Active Learning Group, and also tell us like what would make that experience. I'm not going to use the word unique, because there'll be a lot of different things happening in this space of outdoor education, but something that where you think, this is why we're successful.
Well, I mean, let's start off with a bushcraft course, and we'll build up through Active Learning Centres. So you one of those. So actually, let's do the whole Active Learning Centre. So we've got 3 experiences all around the environment that you'll experience. So the first one is in Hertfordshire, and these are a collection of centres that are basically been neglected by their previous users, and generally they've come out of local authority ownership, where the budgets have been cut over years. Top slicing had stopped as a concept on there. None of these centres have got sales and marketing capability in teams, so they just, as soon as the top slice comes in, they wither. So we picked up 3 of those: Hertfordshire, North Wales, which was Wolverhampton Council, and Sealyham, which was a private owned business. But it basically follows like the woods in Hertfordshire. So we're like 10-15 minutes off the M25 in the middle of 110 acres of ancient woodland. You've then got Pembrokeshire, which is coastal, so coasteering, surfing, beach combing, and lots of activities around there. We've got traditional ropes activities as well. And then you go to North Wales, which I would nearly say is my favourite then, but that'll offend the other people at the centre, so I won't say that. But I do specifically like that one because I'm proud of the centre that we developed, because it's actually it's quite a small centre, about 90 beds, which is small for our industry.
Yeah.
North Wales got steeped in history of like schools going out there. I've got friends who live in Wolverhampton who went there as kids and were telling me about this centre. Totally derelict, and we brought it back to life. Kept it in education, which is the bit that I am proud about. It could have easily been a hotel or something else on there. But you go to the woodland environment, and on there you're doing. My big driver is no queuing. I try to reduce queuing because I want the kids to be active all the time. I want them to be involved. Yeah. So it's not a case of like 2 of you got the climb wall, 2 come down. You're trying to work together. The activities are built around challenge and stretch. So a good facilitation can mean if the groups very adventurous, we can stretch them further on there. We can go quicker, we can go faster, we can go further. If they're not, we can nurture them at a slower pace through the activity. So they're getting growth, they're getting stretch, they're getting achievement as they go. The other thing that we really focus on is we don't hand the kids back at night. So it's not a case of like they're 9 to 5 and we hand the kids back. My staff on rota, because some of them, they do need to sleep as well, is stay with the group. So if you're in the woods, they camp out with the group. So the kids wake up and they're not happy in the evening. My staff are there supporting the teachers. So we're not handing it back to teachers. So it's kind of, I call it like teacher light. So the teachers can come and actually enjoy being part of it, really get stuck in, or they don't have to be, because there's a whole range of appetites for this from the teaching side. But because we don't depend on the teachers stepping into the activity, it means this can happen. It means that you can facilitate. So if you've got a teacher who's very confident and adept in the outdoors, might want to be there. If you've got somebody who isn't, this is what makes it accessible. So making it accessible and easy for teachers, not handing the kids back, it builds that rapport at night. So you do the activities, but then you might be sat around a campfire, talking, telling stories, singing songs, being collective. That's not common these days. You know, people sitting around the dinner table eating together. So if you're on one of the camping trips, the kids will wash up.
Yeah,
that's quite a novel factor for someone. I mean, where's the dishwasher? It's the bowl over in the corner over there, and off you go. So it's kind of taking the responsibility. You come to the towers on there, you take it in turns over the different nights to serve your peers. You go and pick the food off by cook, and we come and, like, you know, lay the tables out. So it's very much more, you know, collective, taking responsibility for the environment that you're in, good manners, good, you know, good communication with people. So it's the whole experience on that. So it's not just about the activities, and this is the big thing to get around people. Your experience of outdoor learning may be huge climbing walls and zip wires, and they're great. They're a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But for me, at the heart of this, it's about challenge. It's about stretch. It's about, you know, taking people beyond where they think they can go safely on that, and understanding, you know, where that cutoff is, and people getting to the end of the trip and feeling, you know, there's a big achievement. So they're the three areas really with ALC around sort of the woods, the coast, and the mountains.
Yeah, so taking like the North Wales one as an example, then, so in a given day, like give us an example of wake up time, you know, activity one, you know, go into like the granular detail then of a day.
Yeah, sure. So generally, if they're going to Wales, they're going for 5 days on there. If they're going from slightly further afield, if it's kind of North Wales schools, Merseyside, they might come for like 3 days on there, because you've got to get out into the mountains. Up at 7, breakfast, briefing. Here's the first thing: the weather changes a lot in North Wales. Yeah, might say we've got like a carousel of activities and sites we can go to that, with the weather changes, we can adapt. So the staff in North Wales are highly experienced. They've been doing this for a long time. It's a more extreme environment, so the level of expertise that you need is higher. So if you're in North Wales, you may be kayaking in a lake, you may be gorge walking. You go in the slate mine, which is probably my favorite. So you go into one of the old slate mines and walk through, then you via ferrata on your way out. It's pretty unique. It's a pretty amazing. A lot of kids have not done that sort of thing. So it is an amazing thing. Quite honestly, you wake up in North Wales, you walk outside, the view is stunning. It is an unbelievable part of the world. It's somewhere I've been for quite a lot of my career. I actually went to university in North Wales, and I keep getting back there through business. So
where did you go?
University.
So did I.
Did you? Oh, there you go. So you know the special place that is. Yeah. On there. So and you become slightly blasé, because you open your bedroom curtains and Snowdon's in front of you, and you see that. But it's a pretty unique, special place. So it's about the environment. It's about seeing that it is a very, very, different and beautiful place. But it is about, let's say, that facilitation through those amazing natural activities. In Wales, it's entirely natural. There's no man-made walls or activities. We are using the environment to, create the challenge and create the adventure. Yeah. If you went to South Wales, to Sealyham, on there you go co-steering. Have you done co-steering?
I've not really. I mean, I did my teacher practice in Pembrokeshire. So I know that area, and we used to holiday there. I mean, the reason I picked that as my teacher practice is because as a kid, that was our sort of holiday destination, where we used to go to Haverfordwest. And I was in Pembroke High School, which was a pretty tough school, actually. It was a good little baptism of fire for me, that one. It was my second placement, actually. I picked like the two. I think I had like the two, and this is no disrespect, it was a lovely school, great staff, but I think I picked like the two toughest schools for my teacher practice, with those two. But St. David's, Haverfordwest, Newgale Beach is one of my favorite beaches down there. It's just
we use Newgale. That's
do you use that?
Yeah, Newgale White Sands. I mean, it's a stunning place. I take my family there every year. We always have a little trip down there on there. It's just I liken it. It's like Cornwall without the traffic, in terms of like the beaches.
Sure.
And the roads are getting better, and it's quite a distance. It's quite a distance, which is it's quite a distance. But the co-steering there, it's unless you stood on one of the ledges and then looked down and thought, I've done this, with the team, and you look down and go, I can't do this. I don't want to, and then you do it. And honestly, the adrenaline and the rush from achieving that and doing it, you're up again, wanting to go again. It's not a kind of one-off, activity. So the other big thing for us, food. We like to serve good food. We like to serve food that's naturally sourced locally. A great environment in terms of South Wales and North Wales. We've got cooks on site, which are just superb and very caring. We never ever don't take kids because of like dietary and med and all this. And trust me, the kids are allergic to things these days you would not even think you could be even allergic to. And we generally get delivered the information on the Friday night before the Monday. So we're geared up to all that. It's part of what we do. We get served fast curveballs and deal with it. But it's a big part of what, it's a big part of the ability to do what we do.
I was going to sort of ask you talked there a little bit about adaptations, but how do the centres adapt activities then to make sure every child's sort of included, they can take part, particularly SEND students as well, if they have particular needs or adaptation requirements?
A lot of it comes out of the pre-trip information briefing. If there's nothing challenging on there for us to deal with, then it goes through the standard system. But if there is, then there's lots of dialogue back and forth with the school, really understanding briefing, because what we want to make sure is when the coach turns up, they hit the ground, they're off. The instructors are with them and they're away. So we don't want to be spending time when the kids have been on the coach for quite a long time, sorting this out. So it's detailed operation planning on there, and a lot of our businesses, the season, we're not working for the majority of the year, not operating. We're off doing all the pre-trip activities. So it's a very, very intense period between kind of April and the end of October on there. So it's obviously the machine is a pretty well-oiled machine, but it's about dialogue and it's about communication with the teachers. And a lot of it, we talked about anxiety within the kids. Quite a lot of it, I'm seeing more and more, is anxiety with the teachers, not believing that they can do it. It's very easy to say no to what we're doing because costs are going up, transport costs are going through the roof. They're going to go even more now, what's happening at the minute on there. So there's lots and lots of reasons to just go, it's too hard, we're not doing it. And what our aim is, every single thing that we're doing is trying to go, no, we've got to keep doing this. So in terms of deals we do with coach companies, free places for kids, or for teachers to facilitate kids who may not be able to come if we don't do that. Just doing everything to make sure we keep going, and this just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mentioned that. It's interesting you say that about the teachers and stuff, and them being anxious about what they think the students can do. It's an interesting point, that. I mean, why do you think that is?
Some of it's generational. Well, now we're going through some of it's different generations of. We went back before and we said that in my generation, like you get on with it and you're pushed into it, and you get things right and you fail. And I'm not saying it was perfect by any means on there, but it was just the environment that we lived in. I think now there's a lot more analysis and, like we're saying, risk assessment. We do risk assessments on that. And being safe is the heart of what we do. It's like, I'm the director of 5 outdoor education companies. People say, how do you sleep at night? I said, very soundly, because of the people and the procedures that I've got around me. So risk is very important, and you've got to analyze it. It's not a blocker to me. You find a way of doing it and make it safe. So I think on there, it's just generational, where people are. We've been through a lot, haven't we? 6 years, COVID and cost of living crises, and we've had times where you couldn't get. There's just lots and lots of reasons to go. We can't do that anymore. And a lot of stopped. There's a lot of outdoor centres that have fallen by the wayside. I was offered one this afternoon up in North Wales, which I would absolutely love to pick up, but it's just been neglected too far. So it's too much money to bring it back into operation. So I think if you're not on top of your game in this sector at the minute, it's very hard to survive on there, because there's a lot of reasons to say no.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you, like, sort of anything, because we've talked about this idea of the uniqueness of outdoor learning opportunities and how unique they can be and how different they can be. Tell us an experience or something you've seen of where, like, a child, something you might see in this sort of environment that you wouldn't see in a classroom. So, something that you'd see happen that you wouldn't see happen in class.
So let's go to the extreme end with the expeditions. 2 things. My favorite part of the year used to be standing at Heathrow with the parents, waiting for the kids to come back. And this shows you where things have changed. So we used to, all the expeditions were a month. You went away for a month on that. And actually it was the fact that it was a month that takes you through a different cycle, doesn't it? A week, 2 weeks. Well, if you're on 2 weeks, the end of your first week, and it's the start of your last week. But 4 weeks, it's like you're going a bit, it's a longer period of time. And I'd stand with the parents, and these are like normal, ladies and gentlemen who were like, if it was at Manchester, it was at Heathrow, and these are not cheap trips either. And they put a lot into it. And they said that the kid coming back in, they're saying the growth, the parents are in tears. I can't believe how much they've grown. And we go and see them in school after. I don't mean physically gone. I mean, they've gone away as kids and come back as like young adults. And the stories they got to tell them, mainly out of things that went wrong on there, is absolutely immense. But on the expeditions, if you ask any of the leaders who take them away, and the concept on lead on these is leading from behind as well, not leading from the front. So it's standing behind, letting the kids self-lead, and just making sure that the environment, we don't go too far on that. But it's when you're doing, mainly going to say altitude, okay? And altitude is a real leveler. And you'll get the big, strong, athletic kid who's normally the one who's, really open, really, gregarious. And then the little kid who maybe is quiet, and who actually, the big kid struggles at the environment and the little kid doesn't. And it's the little kid helping the bigger kid to get to the top of that mountain, which is a well-trodden path and a story on there. So altitude is certainly a big leveler, and that's one extreme. I mentioned before about the kids we see who come out into the environments with a lot of SEND requirements on there. Just find the environment they work in absolutely amazing. Lots of kids who don't excel academically on there are very, very at ease with the people that we're working with on there. So there's just like lots of stories, and it's not the big stories. Those are big stories. The little things you hear, like the story I told you about, a friend of mine. It's like my own daughter telling me that story. Years later, me going as a parent thinking, "Oh my God!" and then going, "Hold on, it is the right thing." Where she is and what she's doing now. So it's the little stories that and experiences that you see, which are I think the greater sort of benefit that's coming out of the outdoors.
Sure. Sometimes in schools, and we know this now, it's always been an issue, but certainly still an issue, is like bullying.
Yeah.
And the social hierarchies in year groups and in social groups and peer groups, peer pressure, a lot of it coming from obviously social media, a lot of them will be on social media, etc. Do you think you can genuinely break that down in these experiences, or do you think that do you have to look out? How do you deal with the kid there who isn't going to say anything? They're never going to come to a facilitator or a course leader. They won't even go to their own teacher and say, "Do you know what? I'm feeling like I'm intimidated." But you'll be able to see it because you see it in the classroom. Teachers can see that in classrooms where they go, "That kid's being left out. That kid's worried to stick their head above the parapet. That kid's worried about making a joke. Those kids are the kids that aren't part of the it crowd." Yeah. So how do you as a facilitator on this sort of trip, where that's going to come out potentially even more, because in a classroom environment it's pretty strictly controlled because you've got them wall to wall. You can manipulate. I don't say that in a negative sense as a teacher. You can manage that situation to actually boost those kids. That's what I try to do as a teacher. I always have through my 20 years, is I will see the social dynamic and I will then manage that in a way where I can't change it, because what happens outside of that classroom, I can't control it. But what I can control is what happens for that hour inside those four walls.
Mm-hmm.
That's easier to control. So I'm saying, do you keep that in mind as facilitators? Do your facilitators keep those social dynamics in mind? And is there anything you can do to say, okay, at the end of this week, those kids might feel a bit more part of it, or minimum, at least they'll have had an experience where they're not going, "Oh, I was picked on, I was bullied, I was, anything happened."
I think there's a few things going on here. One, I actually think it's probably easier beyond the classroom on that. I think that the kids eventually, as you get, will naturally relax on there. There's probably less anxiety when you get out into the environments we're working in. But I think, look, the sort of bushcraft earlier years part of the outdoor education piece, my instructors are quite young, so there's not a huge age gap in there's probably, I don't know, 10 years or something on there between them. They're probably 19 and 9 on there. So there is that dynamic, different than say if a 55-year-old's doing instruction with them. So there is that kind of infinity. There's the environment. There's the length of time as well, because you often, when you're waking up to when you're going to bed, you're together. There's just a lot more time. And when you have a challenge or a problem, one of the things you can do to help on that is put time into the situation to give you time to converse. I think there's a lot of side conversations when you're walking down a track, when you're going off and getting out of the water and helping. It's like there's a lot of, and it's framed on a little bit these days, a lot of banter, a lot of sort of badgering, cajoling. There's a lot of humor around there. It's just a great dynamic to create that sort of safe environment. The other thing as well, which is a big part of outdoor ed and facilitation, is active reviewing, and actively like reviewing what you've just done, how you thought before, how you feel, and really allowing people to take how they felt, you know, in terms of they felt anxious before they jumped off the cliff, but now they feel, you know, a great feeling of exhilaration. So I think constantly reviewing what they've done, dialogue, and in different environments, different times. You're in a classroom in which it's teacher at the front or in a round in the class, whereas here it's not. It's a more kind of diverse set of environments.
I mean, I know that sometimes people say, you know, residential trips, you know, costs a major barrier. So, you know, what cost-effective strategies can schools use to make these experiences more accessible to more students in general?
I think so. Let's just step back from the residential activity first of all. For me, at the heart of this, outdoor learning doesn't have to be going on 4-week expeditions or even going on 3-night trips. It isn't. I know the big challenge is transport costs on that, and the general cost. So I think doing anything, taking the kids beyond the classroom, spending time within the week on working on team building, problem solving activities, or on the trying to find ways in the environment that you're in where you can stretch them and can get them working together and working differently. That's the very basic. You can do that extremely cheaply. I think activities such as forest school at the early stage is great, and that's, you know, I think with forest school, have a go, and you can always bring in resource that's not that expensive externally to help you, but it's a great starting point. We do giant sleepovers with schools as well, one night with primary schools, because it's just a kind of, mom's not there and they're coming together and they're sleeping. It's literally.
What does that mean then? What is the giant sleepover? What is it?
They'll come in and do some activities in the school hall, and then they'll literally sleep in the school overnight together, and they're doing like a little camp, but in the hall. So these are young kids. Yeah, so I mean, it's not outdoor education.
No.
It's learning beyond the classroom, because they are interacting, they are learning. So I think teachers can do and do that. So there's lots of things you can do early stage, and for me, it's about progression, and you as professionals observing these kids and taking them on a journey and progressively getting them to understand they can do a lot more than they are doing. Then you go to the residentials, and if you can't afford to go for 5 days, go for 3 days. And if you can't afford to go for 3 days, do an overnight. You've got to go. The overnight piece is important, I think, to get them away and get them into different environments. So it'll keep the cost down. There'll be lots of centres near you locally. Use them. Some amazing people. So, and then negotiate hard. I'm selling against myself here now, but that's what I would do. I was on there because I'd sooner people do it rather than not do it because of the cost. And it's so easy to say no, but we have to say yes.
That makes perfect sense. You know, you've sort of touched on this earlier, but what changes do you think a teacher might see? I mean, you've mentioned it sort of a bit from a parent, but what changes do you think a teacher might see after this from students?
I think the relationship back with the students themselves is huge. On they'll trust, a real kind of affiliation. I remember, just putting aside the outdoors for the minute, at school I was heavily into lots of sports, and my teachers that I look back with like real fondness are the teachers that I spent time with at football or rugby or cricket or I talk about stories where my geography teacher bowled at us every lunchtime in the playground on there. I remember him, because that, and I had that affinity with him because we Not only was he a brilliant geography teacher, by the way, he had a pretty good like off spin as well. So it was, we built that rapport. So I think you build a rapport. I think you build the trust. They see a different side of you as well. You know, Mr. or Miss coming into a classroom is different than Mr. or Miss out. Yeah. Maybe struggling to, you know, do some of the activities with them on that, or actually being really, really good at them, and the kids going, "Wow, I didn't think you could actually do it." And it's that kind of humility and that sort of bonding that you can get and you can build over these activities. And ultimately, I think kids genuinely really appreciate it when adults support them and do things with them. They just see it and might not say it to you and might not show it in immediacy, but it will come into experiences as you go further forward. So I just feel you've got that. I think there's kids that are maybe slightly more introverted and slightly more you know, would have been stood at the back. You will start to see them bringing forward. It's not a light bulb and everybody suddenly starts, you know, running marathons and sort of being totally gregarious, but actually it's small steps, and it is about small steps and about progression. So you will see subtle changes in the kids when they come back into the classroom. Sure. Just again, if anybody's watching, check it out, activelearninggroup.co.uk, and find out more about what we're talking about tonight if you're interested, or if you're we'll come back to that at the end, but I just thought I'd throw it up now for anyone watching. We're going to move on a little bit now to the sort of well-being and sort of free time side of this. So, you know, I'll start with one question. If you could ban, because you mentioned you wouldn't ban mobile phones. I would at certain times. Yeah, I would in certain situations, but... Or was it social media? I don't know what it was that you said on your LinkedIn. What was it? No, mine was more, it's about the phones. For instance, when you come on our expedition, we said don't bring phones. Yeah. And the battle, some parents are not comfortable with that. So no, the child needs the phone. And we say, trust us, you don't need the phone or on that. And so I think not having the phone and those devices sometimes is vital, because we're all glued to them, aren't we? Sure. But I was going to ask, if you could ban one thing from modern childhood overnight, what would it be? In some cases, like with them, is parents being at all the activities. So outside of, obviously, the beauty of when you go on the outdoor education is mum and dad aren't there. And if anybody who's listening to this and is running sports teams at weekends, know most of the problems you have around sports teams at weekends don't involve the kids. It's the parents and quite a lot of the behaviour around there. And then the resultant interaction between a parent not behaving and the kid not behaving, or the kid not behaving and the parent not doing anything about it. So I think for me would be having activities where kids were away from the parents, so they can be, you know, themselves and probably open up more and discuss. Yeah. So do you think that so you're saying that happens less maybe now? I think that the parents are with them more during. 100%. I was saying to my mum this weekend, I was back up in obviously after Saturday, I was back in Rochdale for Mother's Day. I'm just saying that I used to play cricket. I used to get 2 buses. I was like 15, 14, 15, and I'd go off, and my dad wasn't there because he was away working. So they weren't in and around me, very, very supportive as they were on with me. But let me get on with it. You know, I played in bands, I played cricket, I played football, and you went around. So, and I think that gave a certain level of independence and a certain level of understanding, feeling uncomfortable, feeling a bit nervous at times. But I didn't have that. I wasn't ferried from post to post and to this club, to that club, to another club. I think there's a lot more free play. I believe a lot in the power of play as well. Kids just being kids and getting out and playing. We just talked before, Matt, that you couldn't wait for lunchtime to get out and be playing cricket. Someone made a joke the other day. The young boy who just played for Arsenal, he's like 16 the other day. On there saying, yeah, I wonder what he's like in the playground playing football. And I'm thinking it's a shame for him actually, because he won't be allowed to really because of what he is. But he's 16 on that, he's 15, whatever he is on there. And so just allowing kids to be kids and playing, I think is a huge part. If you look at super camps, the kids turn up and it's very structured in every day.
Yeah.
And actually,
now,
parents want to know, what are they doing? What have they done today? What are they doing here? And going, a lot of the time, just let them play and interact with other kids and just like make their own games up and play some of the time. But there's people know we want structure. We want to know what we're doing between 9 and 10 and 10 and 11. So I would remove a lot of the structure around some of the things that kids do and just let them play.
I think a lot of people will resonate with that. I think one of the things from a schools and teaching perspective on that is, and we were talking about this funnily enough a few weeks ago on TTR, is the lessening of the time for lunch, and the sort of time for play during lunch has lessened. Students are much more supervised now during breaks. There's much less free time, spare time to sort of go around. Part of that is because of behavior. I think some schools have gone, we need to really, really structure and box up our lunch times into shorter packages so we can monitor the behavior. So I think that's the flip side of that in terms of what you're saying, which I, by the way, on a personal level, it resonates with me and I agree with. But also, I guess the flip side to that is, it does require trust in that. Although what you're saying is, and I had the same experiences as you when I was a child, is like we must have done that in the past, I guess, is sort of trust children. But maybe, there is that sort of concern over behaviors, I guess.
But I think in school, I mean, the teachers, they have to have the structure. We get that. The reason we're talking about outdoor learning and other stuff is it is learning beyond that classroom. When you're in that traditional environment, absolutely, they need the structure. Behavior is not good, so we have to sort of lock it down a little bit more. Sometimes that behavior I see is different when you get them away from the classroom, and there's a slightly different way of, I don't know, communicating, less formal maybe, and the facilitation side of it. So I think answering the question is really, it is the power of taking it beyond the classroom. It is the power of a different environment that allows you to get different outcomes on there. So, yeah.
2 questions to finish. Part 1 is, if you could change one thing about how schools or the government approach outdoor learning in the next 5 years, what would it be?
Well, if you go to Scotland, and Wales are following, it's being mandated about the right for residentials. I know the new national curriculum, it's in there and it's a right across certain subjects on there, but it's a lot softer approach on there. And generally, policy around the outdoors, our colleagues in Scotland and Wales have kind of led on this and seen the real importance of it, and we have lagged somewhat, and there's been less support for the sector. Money and resources and focus has gone into other areas on there. Clearly, I wouldn't advocate for that, but I can understand there's a lot of different demands on the money and the resources. But it would be putting this at the, really at the heart of a whole, holistic education experience for our young people, because the experiences that they're getting are going to. You mentioned at the start, didn't you, the experience you had, whether that was good or bad, you remembered it, you still remember it, to today on that, and it did stretch you. And I think it's we definitely need to take the young people on these journeys and stretch them and make them believe they can do more. And I think the outdoors is a perfect environment to achieve that. Yeah,
it's interesting. I didn't know that actually about did you say Scotland and Wales?
Yeah, so the activity in Scotland is where it's a right for the kids, to have the residential, whereas Wales are moving towards that. They're slightly behind where Scotland are, and we've got this sort of new national curriculum, which is in there, but it's kind of more guidance rather than totally prescriptive. So it's still easy to say no. That's the thing I'm saying on there. And we've got to find ways of saying yes.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to you some other time about urban experiences, which is something else that I'm thinking of, because I just feel I just think we can get the same experience in an urban environment, a different experience, but it'll still hit some of the key fundamentals that we want, but we just got to get the kids out and doing things more.
Got you. Okay. Well, it's been a great chat. Really, really enjoyed it. Where can teachers watching this who have maybe tapped into this conversation and found something interesting from it, where can they go to find out more, or specifically if they're interested in even embarking on outdoor education and they're thinking, we haven't done this, we need to do it?
Yeah, sure. You put the website up before, activelearninggroup.co.uk. You can follow me, Nigel Miller, on LinkedIn. On there, it'd be great to say hi to you on there. If you go to Active Learning Group, you'll see the different businesses within there, so you can drill down into their sites, and then the social media that hangs off that as well. But if anybody's got any further questions or want some ideas or some support or anything, just pop into my LinkedIn, say hi, and I'll help you from there.
Brilliant. I mean, just to emphasize, if you want to connect with Nigel, just head to LinkedIn, Nigel Miller, Active Learning Group. You'll find him there, and obviously have a chat with him about anything we've discussed. I've taken a huge amount of that out of that tonight, so thank you very much indeed, Nigel, for that. Loads to think about and to sort of reflect on. And this will be available as well as a podcast. So if anybody's just joining in now, then you can download this as a podcast through all the usual places. In a couple of days' time, it will be out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, etc. But if you want to catch up now, then you can do that on in all the usual places: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. Kay also says, love what you're about. Great advocate for outdoor learning. Keep up the great work. So Nigel, thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
See you again. Bye.
Outstanding, a world-class vision, a world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole